Guys, and as it's a new week, we're here with a new deck, and today we are with Jund Dragons, which is not exactly the powerfulest deck I've ever played with, but it is basically just Jund mid-range. But just before I start going into the deck, if you want to just read the deck list and you don't want to listen to me talk on for about 15 minutes, then I recommend just go in my description. I'll have a link to where the deck list is on No Goblins Allowed. So yeah, it's pretty handy just being able to throw it up on one website. It saves me having to copy it out in the description. So yeah, if you want to check it out there, then off you go. But like I said, this deck is basically just Jund mid-range, where we replace all the good bombs with dragons. So yeah, the general idea is to self-mill yourself a bit, and then rescue from the underworld, bring back a scary dragon and win. I know I don't want to chuck one of you away. And then without further ado, let's get into the cards. We run 3 Necromancer's Assistants. This guy is in here because basically, and it was between him and Phyrexian Rager, and Phyrexian Rager draws the card. This guy self-mills. I think self-mills is a bit more valuable in this deck right now. He's more offensively based as well, so if you give him haste later on or something like that, he can deal a lot of damage. And I mean, he keeps back scary guys and stuff, so he can work both ways with his 3. He's obviously useless against tokens and stuff, but the self-mill is pretty much worth it. So yeah, that's why we run 3 of these. Next we run Rescue the Underworld. This is the heart of the deck. I mean, this allows you to get out your big scary dragons before they should really be hitting the field. And yeah, I mean, they remove a big creature, you can bring it back, stuff like that. It's essentially why we run this deck. We self-mill ourselves, put something good in the graveyard, bring it back. It's rescue from the underworld. A lot of the creatures have good end of the battlefield effects again, so you generally get some value out of it, even if they do remove your creatures straight away. And the most important thing around this card is make sure they don't have counters, because there's nothing worse than sacrificing out a Runescar Demon to get it dissolved. So make sure they're not running counters and you'll be fine. Next we run on to pretty much these next 3 cards are just mandatory in the Jund mid-range deck. So we run a Shouldered, because I mean, read that card and tell me what's bad about it. This thing just wins games single-handedly. It pretty much says if your opponent doesn't have removal, they lose game, and that's always a good thing. And we can bring it back as well. So next card is Runescar Demon, which pretty much 95% of the time just says 2nd and 3rd Shouldered. But even if it doesn't, I mean, it's so versatile in this deck. If you need life, you get a Pelican Worm. If you need to burn your opponent out, you can get Banefire. You can get Shouldered, you can get the other Runescar Demon. You can, if good stuff's in the graveyard already, you get a Rescue from the Underworld. You get a Treasured Find. I mean, yeah, it's Runescar Demon. Just get anything you need in any situation. And it's also got the added bonus of being a 6/6 for 7, which is pretty much needs dealing with by itself. And that's why we run both of them. That's all the black we run. So next we move on to the red, which is Banefire. Banefire, we only run 1. It's basically there for the Runescar Demon tutor. And yeah, I mean, Banefire, it's mostly a finish your opponent off, but if you really need to, you can like burn out a Tyrant or a Mentor Lemik or something like that. It's added removal, but ideally it's a finishing move. Next we run 2 Shocks. Initially we ran 4 Shocks, but eventually they got cut down for like the 3rd rescue, and I think I can't remember what the other thing was, but in the end I decided Shock wasn't as valuable as I thought it would be, because we're not running Anger the Gods in this deck, which I'll explain. I'll explain now actually. We're not running Anger because a lot of our cards in this deck gel horribly with Anger, and as we're a graveyard deck, exiling stuff instead of putting it in the graveyard is obviously terrible. So we decided against running Anger, and I thought adding 4 Shocks would kind of nullify, make up for that weakness, but in the end I decided Shock's really not useful. The only things we really want to shock are Tyrons and Mentors, and we've got other removal for that. So we don't need all 4. Obviously it's a really mana efficient way of doing that, but 2 is pretty strong. I mean, you generally do see 1 a game, and it can come in handy, and I do like seeing them in my start hand. Next we jump all the way from 1 to 4 with Ogre Battle Driver, because this basically says make your dragons 20 times more threatening, because like Hellkite and like Siege Dragon, they're really good cards, but generally they want to swing in before they have their good effects. And this guy basically says they can swing in a turn earlier, and anything becomes game ending with this guy. Runescar Demon's 8/6, fly and stuff like that. So pretty powerful card, and it's pretty much essential. It's an ideally you want to go Olga Battle Driver into Rescue from the Underworld to get like a Hellkite back. But that, I mean, obviously that's not going to happen every game. But that'd be probably his ideal turn 4, turn 5. But without further ado, let's not throw away Shivan Dragon. Let's actually look at the card. And this is Shivan Dragon. Shivan Dragon. Ideally, I'd want it to be an Inferno Titan if this deck was being more serious. But as it is a Dragon deck, it'd be rude not to run them. They are basically just a worse Inferno Titan though. But they are dragons, so they obviously get the whole dragon benefit in the Dragon deck. A lot of people don't play around the Fire Breathing in this guy, which is weird, but had a game where opponent decided to take out a Battle Driver instead of Shivan Dragon, forgetting that I could use Fire Breathing like 4 times to lethal him the next turn. So I mean, yeah, it's a really good card though. Still, don't get me wrong, it's my preferred dragon in the later game dragon spots. And I think I missed out. Where have you gone? Have I chucked you away? There you are. I knew I'd missed a card. Stormbreath Dragon. Stormbreath Dragon. We're moving back one, but Stormbreath Dragon is the best dragon in the game. I was saying there about Shivan, but Stormbreath is just mandatory. Of the optional dragons, Shivan is the best. But this guy protects from white, flying, haste. He only costs 5 as well, which is fantastic. So I mean, this and monstrous as well is pretty relevant. We can get up to 7 mana, and pretty much it's the best value dragon. That's why it's a mythic. So yeah, we've done Shivan Dragon. Siege Dragon. I'm not a big fan of this guy, but I have seen him do work. That's why we are running the 1. We don't want both of them. I mean, the walls, the only ones that I can think are relevant are Wall of Omens and potentially that blue jellyfish 1/3 thing. But apart from that, it really doesn't destroy anything that I can think of. But the second ability is really good. It is an Anger the Gods effect. For 2 though. Only for 2 damage, I mean. But it is each creature that only they control. So it's pretty good. I mean, you keep swinging it. They can't basically, well, this guy, he's a really good shooter option if you've got a Runescar Demon and they've got like a Spider Spawn on the field. So that's obviously fantastic interaction. And most importantly, I will say, he does have an amazing animation when he comes in the field. So that's the actual real reason we're playing him. And yeah, actually we're on to the main reason you build a dragon deck, which is Utvara Hellkite. He makes 6/6 dragons every time a dragon attacks. That is like, it gets exponentially worse for your opponent when you have more and more dragons on the field, because the more dragons, the more tokens you make. And this guy is really good because he allows you to attack in recklessly with your dragons, because you're making a decent defense as well. So I mean, you're attacking with this guy, you make a 6/6 token. Next turn you're attacking with 2 dragons, you make 2 more 6/6s, and then your opponent's dead. So he is the main dragon. He is why you build a deck, and you do want to get him out turn 5 if you can. Although that's not obviously always possible, and you can't build an entire deck around that. But you know, he's in here because he's amazing. And it's a dragon deck. I mean, it'd be stupid not to run that dragon in a dragon deck. Finally, we move on to green, which is more self-mill right now with Satyr Wayfinder. This guy is mana fixing, and he also puts more stuff in your graveyard, which is obviously really, really nice in this deck. The mana fixing is really relevant as well because, you know, we've got a lot of like double reds, double blacks, triple greens. So it's pretty nice to be able to just mana fix, get whatever you need, and then take it from there. So I mean, he's essential to any graveyard deck. He's kind of like the Elvish Visionary equivalent of graveyards. Next we move on to 4 Culverts. This is mana ramp. Helps if we don't have rescues in hand. This lets us get out our big threats. It's also ramps, mana fixes. It's just, yeah, I'd say it's the best green card in the game. I'll throw that out there. And that's why we run all 4. And then finally we move on to our 1 green bomb, which is Pelican Worm. Pelican Worm is in here because you never know, like, it's life, if you need life gain, Pelican Worm can help you bail out when no other card in this deck will save you. So like, just say Izzet Burn has got you down to 6 life, you know they've got a Banefire coming up, then you can pay Pelican Worm, put you out of that range, and then proceed to win that game, hopefully. I I mean, even if they do remove it, you draw a card. It's a really valuable bomb. We only run Run though because the triple green is pretty bad in this deck, and it's a dragon deck, so you can't really throw all the worms and stuff in. And that's a horrible reason, but that's my excuse right there. Next we move on to the Jund, the Jund cards in this format, and we have Sprout and Thronax, which is I'd say it's one of my favourite cards in this game. Because the only thing that makes you sad with this guy is Anger of the Gods. Because anything else they use is really not effective against it. Like, if they use Ground Assault, you get 3 1/1s for free. If they use Angelic Edict, yeah, they exile it, but they just use a 5 mana card and a 3 mana card. It's really good that way. It's a 3/3 for 3, which makes 3 more 1/1s when it dies. It's perfect for delaying your opponent, and it's also got some offensive presence. And it is probably my favourite card's interaction with Rescue from the Underworld. Because just say they've got Mentor on the field, you have a Sprout and Thronax. You attack in with your Sprout and Thronax, they don't block. Next turn they swing in, you use Rescue from the Underworld. You make 3 1/1s, they double block the Mentor and kill it, and then you get a big threat back. Obviously that's not always going to happen every game, but it is probably my favourite card to abuse with Rescue, along with Satyr Wayfinder. But yeah, I mean, that's why we run all 3 of them. That's another reason we don't run Anger. That guy is obviously really terrible with Anger of the Gods. And then finally we run a Kresh. Kresh is in here mostly to eat removal from their opponents. You kind of need to deal with this guy. If you don't deal with this guy, then he's just going to get out of control pretty fast. We do run a lot of removal. And so we do run a lot of removal, such as the Ground Assaults going up later, and we run Banefire, the Shocks. So, I mean, he does get pretty big, even if it's only us that's contributing to creature death. And if our opponent is, we have Rescues as well to bring him back. Rescues obviously sacrifices your own creatures, that also makes Kresh bigger. He's mostly there to bait the removal for the big dragons. And then that's when they come in and destroy the game. Plus, if you look in the top left corner of the card, that is a dragon in the background. So, we have to run him. It's in a dragon deck, it's obligatory. But yeah, that's Kresh. And next we move on to basically some utility cards. We run 2 Treasure Finds, mostly here to get us Rescue from the Underworlds back from the graveyard if we've milled them. And even if we've used all our rescues, it can give us one last hooah with our big dragons and stuff, which we might have milled or used from being removed or whatever. It can also get removal, it can get Banefire if you've blown it off, and you can burn your opponent out. It's just Treasure Find. It's really good in this sort of deck. And finally, the best removal in the game, Ground Assault. Basically 2 mana, destroy target creature. Very rarely in this deck will they ramp up ahead of you. So it's sorcery speed, which is sad, but some things just play out that way. And then that's the main deck. Haven't accidentally removed any cards. But then we move on to lands, which is, I mean, we run the Gruul and the Golgari Guild Gates because I tend to get confused over. I mean, I tend to confuse myself over confusing my opponent more. I mean, I get easily confused when I check lands. So it's just easier for me. Plus, I've got slight OCD about it. I don't like running blue, for example, with Frontier Bivouac when I don't really need to. So, but I mean, if you are no OCD like me, then go ahead and chuck in the correct lands. I mean, you lose nothing from it, and you can confuse your opponents. But anyway, just for my reference, I run 2 Golgari Guild Gates because black is like the tertiary colour. We run 3 Gruul because these are primary and secondary colours. 2 Rakdos, and then 3 Savage Lands, and then we run 4 forests, 6 mountains, and 4 swamps. The reason we run so many fast red lands is because, like, Ogre Battle Drive we want out turn 4, Storm Breath we want out turn 5, and then, well, black, our double colours are not until mana 7, and green it's not until mana 7 as well. So that's why we run the mana as it is, and the mana's been pretty solid so far. But that is the deck, and if you've got any comments or suggestions on cards which should be put in the deck, then please let me know, and I will defend or justify. I might put them in if it makes enough sense. And I'm sure this deck isn't perfect, as I'm sure you're aware. And most importantly, thank you guys for watching. We'll hopefully see you tomorrow, where we'll hopefully get to see if this deck works. So see you guys then.